Continuing our Mandelbulb 3D tutorial series, we're in the process of talking about the calculation panel, and we worked our way down through the DE stop and the Raystep multipliers, and these properties go hand in hand with the quality of the rendering that is produced. All right. Now, the normals on DE, if you recall when we were talking about normals, all right, the normals are intimately related to the calculations pertaining to ray tracing or ray marching. The internal software needs to know where those normals are in order to be able to reconstruct a simulation or a facsimile of your 3D environment. So normals are quite important. What this feature does is it improves the accuracy of the normals by using the DE, all right, the distance estimate, to help determine what the normals on each ray. I normally just leave it checked on because, well, why not? It's not always relevant according to my reading, but when it is relied upon by the internal software, I like to have it turned on. First step, random. I have found that it's okay to leave this turned on because what this basically says, let's see, multiplies the first step width with a random number to give oversampling artifacts a noisy look. Now, it's very interesting what this thing is. Basically, this is sort of like a built-in fudge or a built-in a deliberate error. All right, here's what it comes down to. Here's what it comes down to. If you're going to get noise or overstepping or oversampling, if you're going to get that in your, I can't give you a white dot here because it's a white background. I'll give you a black. So you get a dot here. You get a white spot. This is oversampling. This is oversampling. Okay, that sort of thing. Now, you don't want oversampling that's on a nice square straight row, because obviously that doesn't look very natural and normal. Ideally what you want is, if you're going to have oversampling, if you're going to have oversampling, and you will have oversampling, and I'll tell you why you're going to have oversampling, whether you like it or not, is because you're probably not ever going to find a situation where you have a DE stop, Raystep multiplier, and these other things where you get zero oversampling. All right? Because it's just not, the ray marching methodology is just not that accurate. Or maybe I'll rephrase that. It's not that accurate in 13-year-old software. So you have to make a compromise. Now, maybe today, if somebody was to come out and redo this thing, they probably would throw all the ray tracing and I should say rendering code, they'd probably throw it all away and just start all over again. There are more accurate ways of rendering a 3D environment, but what we have here with the Mandelbulb 3D is we do not have 100% accurate ray tracing, which means that you are going to have some rays that are going to overstep, and you're going to get white dots, or you're going to get black dots, that's why I keep saying what you're trying to do here is to find a compromise between the quality of your image and the time it takes to render. Now, I mean, I could dial all this stuff down to the lowest possible way. Matter of fact, I did a couple sessions ago. I made that dot 1, point 1, and I made the DE stop point 1, and I had a terrible image. The point is that you're never, ever, ever going to entirely get rid of any over sampling, overstepping. That's just the nature of the beast. All right. So if you have to live with oversampling, at least make it random. All right, make it random. Don't make it all nice and square and straight and everything, because that doesn't look normal. Try to get your oversampling as random as possible. And that's what this does here. Normally leave it on. First step, random. And it just basically says that it multiplies the first step width, all right, with a random number. Step width, let's see, would be, that's your step width right here. Make it random. And if we're going to have to live with oversampling, at least make it random oversampling, not so organized that it doesn't look good. All right. Raystep sub DE stop. They're not really saying what it does. They're saying how it might. Basically, what it does is it takes the settings of a ray, which includes the DE stop, Raystep multiplier, and that sort of thing, and kind of bases the next ray on those values, but kind of a sub value of the previous ray with these settings. I haven't really found any value in leaving it on in terms of my quality. I don't think it really makes it much of a difference. Okay. So look, the whole idea here, and I've said it probably 1,000 times by now, the whole idea is for you to find your best compromise between the quality of your image and the time it takes to render. Quality equates to the details within your scene, and also handling the artifact of oversampling. Okay, so oversampling is it didn't quite understand where that Mandelbulb object is, and it shot it off, or it stopped too soon. In other words, that particular ray is of no value to the whole picture. Therefore, the internal software doesn't know what to do with it and assigns it white, or maybe assigns it black, whatever. Your job with these calculation settings here is not to understand the deep down depth thing of what this thing does in the software, but to manipulate them so that you get your best quality image with the lowest possible rendering. And again, it has a lot to do with whether or not you are rendering a still or you're going to be rendering an animation. When you're rendering a still, typically, I will go for the best quality that I can get, and I don't really concern myself with the rendering time. I mean, I really don't care. If I can get, all right, let me put it to you this way. If I can get an 8K image out of here that will print and display and present wonderfully, I really don't care if it takes 12 hours to render it. I'm only going to render it one time. I want every single pixel in that 8K still to be perfect and pristine. All right, so then that's the goal, and that is what I think about when it comes to the calculation. I think about those things too when it comes to lighting and coloring, as well as, of course, the structure of the of the Mandelbulb image. When I'm doing an animation, different mindset here. I'm looking for acceptable quality at a reasonable or a good render time, because I'm going to be rendering so many of them. All right, so I think we're going to leave this. No, I don't think we're going to leave this. I think what we're going to do is we're going to come back in the next session, one more session, and we're going to tweak these things out and land on the quality of the image and the rendering time that is acceptable for our animation project. So that's going to be the goal in the next session, where we're going to try to get a good image quality at a reasonable rendering time to advance our Mandelbulb 3D animation project, which is the basis for this tutorial series. All right. So why don't we get some coffee, stretch a little bit. When we come back, we're going to see if we can fine-tune this thing for the best quality at reasonable rendering. I'll see you there.